American delegation in Pakistan to negotiate a longer-term peace plan. Both the U.S. and Iran are now claiming victory over the current two-week ceasefire, but big questions still remain over what exactly has been agreed to on a host of key sticking points and what comes next.
There are also questions about who is involved in the deal. Across the Middle East, missiles were flying, with Qatar saying Iran fired 7 missiles and a number of drones over its borders that needed to be shot down just a short time ago. Israel is saying the ceasefire does not apply to Lebanon and launched its largest wave of attacks against Hezbollah there since this war began. In response, Iranian state media reports that the vital oil shipping lane, the Strait of Hormuz, remains closed. Joining us now, NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley in Israel, and NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Cubie out of Washington. Gabe, we'll start with you. What do we know right now about what has been agreed to in the ceasefire, and what more can you tell us about these upcoming negotiations in Pakistan?
Well, there are certainly a lot of questions about that ceasefire, Zing Clay. You listed some adjective, fragile. Well, that's what the Vice President, J.D. Vance, is calling it. He's calling it a fragile truce. There's tenuous, there is shaky. And as we work to repair our lights here at our live shot position, I'll keep going into what's part of this deal. There's a lot of confusion with the White House press briefing just now wrapping up. And when it comes to Caroline Leavitt, she was asked about this news that Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz.
Gabe? Okay, it sounds like we may have lost Gabe, so we're going to bring in Matt Bradley and come back to Gabe if we can.
Back.
Oh. Matt, hey there.
You've got me here?
Yeah, we've got you. We lost Gabe there, so
Yes.
let me ask you, so Iran is saying that the terms of the ceasefire have already been violated. Can you talk to us about where things stand from where you're sitting?
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about the ceasefire here, we're talking now about kind of many different elements. Specifically, the main bone of contention that's emerged really in just the past day, couple of hours, is this situation over Israel's northern border with Lebanon, where Israel has been fighting now for weeks in a ground invasion against Hezbollah. Now, the Hezbollah militant group is backed by Iran. In fact, Iran is their main sponsor. And it was thought, as this was kind of coming into fruition last night, and as we heard from the Pakistani Prime Minister, that the Lebanese issue, Israel's fight with Lebanon, is going to be part of this ceasefire. And therefore, Israel would have to stop its offensive against Hezbollah in Lebanon. That has not happened. And instead, what we heard was Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's Prime Minister, snapping back and saying, in fact, Israel and Lebanon are not part of this ceasefire, and we will continue to attack. And boy, did they. Launching what was, according to the Israelis, the most powerful series of strikes that Israel has launched against that Hezbollah militant group since the latest round of fighting began at the end of February. And now we're seeing hundreds, many people displaced in Lebanon. In fact, those numbers I was about to give you, we haven't yet really arrived on just how many people have fled, just how many people have been killed, though it's north of 100 now, and just how many people have been injured. This is already causing a lot of difficulty for these ongoing, very sensitive negotiations, which, as you mentioned, are set to take place in Pakistan in the coming days. Without this question of Lebanon and Hezbollah and their place in the ceasefire, negotiations are going to be very hard moving forward.
Matt, thank you. And Courtney, let's go to you in Washington now. This morning, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Payne briefed the press. There were some discrepancies that you found regarding the objectives of this war and the cost, right?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that just remains is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Kane, gave a number of statistics today. The first time that we've really gotten that level of comprehensive information about what the U.S. has targeted and what they believe they have damaged or destroyed when it comes to Iran's conventional capabilities. But one of for instance, the numbers don't really add up to a complete destruction of Iran's military, specifically of their Iranian ballistic missile program or of their drone program. On the contrary, another thing that we have heard is that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs said that about 80% of Iran's air defenses have been taken out. Well, That doesn't mean that they have completely destroyed all of their defenses, obviously. And as we have seen just in less than a week now, Iran has threatened, damaged, and shot down U.S. aircraft that are operating in their skies. So the real discrepancy here is whether, in fact, the objective, as laid out at the beginning of this war and again this morning in the Pentagon briefing room, of the U.S. destroying Iran's ballistic missile capability and their drone program was actually achieved here before this ceasefire yesterday. These are questions that we're trying to get an answer to, but the reality is the numbers that they have provided publicly simply do not support that.
And Courtney, as you say all this, there are still thousands of U.S. service members, right, deployed around the Middle East. What happens to them now in the wake of this agreement?
Yeah, tens of thousands, Kate, are still there forward on the ground at sea, and they're all throughout the region and even into Europe supporting Operation Epic Fury, or the war in Iran. So at this point, while this ceasefire is still so fragile, while this the diplomatic effort, whatever it is, this diplomacy continues, there is no indication from officials that we're speaking with that any of the military presence will move back to the continental U.S. or that they will redeploy. It seems instead that they are keeping them there while they wait and see what happens. I've been asking repeatedly whether the U.S. military has restarted any offensive operations in Iran. The answer continues to be no, despite the fact what you were just talking about with Matt and with Gabe about how it appears Iran may have still launched off some projectiles in the last 18 hours or so since the ceasefire was agreed to. But at this point, again, the U.S. military is maintaining this massive presence in the region, but they have not restarted any kind of offensive operations in Iran.
All right, Courtney QB, Matt Bradley, appreciate your reporting. Thank you so much.